I got ordained since the last podcast. So it's been almost 2 weeks. We didn't do a podcast last week. My daughter broke her arm, and I just, instead of trying to make things happen, I just was like, let's just skip the podcast for the week. All right, so you have joined the Position Recovery Podcast, and I'm your host. My name is Jeremy Grogan. I'm a child of God, and I'm an overcomer of all kinds of things. Alcohol is my primary thing, and then tobacco is like the secondary thing. Before we begin, I want to let people know you're either watching this or you're listening, and so if you are watching, then you can go also listen to the full podcast. But we are on Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, and Podbean with an N. I thought at first it was Podbeam, but it's Podbean. You know, there's like hundreds of podcast platforms, and I'm not going to apply for all of them, dude. I think Spotify, Google, Amazon, and Podbean are probably enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, so if you're watching, you can go listen to the full podcast there. If you're listening and you'd like to watch the podcast, you can go search on YouTube for Position Recovery Podcast, or you can search for Position Recovery. We have 2 channels, and one channel has just clips, and then the other channel has the full thing. Also, if you are watching, I would like to ask you to subscribe to the channel and to like and share the video. That really helps get the algorithm going, as well as if you can comment. And I think I'd like to ask you guys to comment what you're getting from the channel or what your favorite thing in this podcast is. So you're probably gonna have to listen to the whole podcast before you're able to comment on that. So I understand that. If you'd like to support us, you can go to patreon.com/positioned. There's all kinds of giving levels, and we would appreciate whatever kind of support you can do. And I think Zach talked about this, but when you support this, you're supporting so much more than a podcast, and you're supporting so much more than a YouTube channel, because as the funding comes in, as we grow, everybody that you see in this channel, we are heavily involved in people's lives. And really, I want this podcast and things to be such a small fraction of the things that we're actually doing. And this is really just a way for us to give back to the world and show the community that there are things going on. But at the end of the day, transformation happens when a person who's been restored is working and mentoring another person who's being restored. And that is what we need in this entire world, is a ton of people doing that. And so that's what we're doing here. So I just wanted you guys to know that there's a little bit more going on. So I want to do some announcements and some updates and things like that. But before we do that, I will turn it over to you guys for a moment.
Hi, I'm Zach.
Hi, I'm Hefzibah, also known as Chris.
Come on.
What are you guys' MOs? What brought you here?
I am an overcomer of pornography, self-hatred, time stealers, anything to make the thoughts be quiet.
Yeah, that's good.
And so now I'm learning to love myself in whole new ways and grab onto who God's called me to be.
Amen. That's good, Zach.
I'm an overcomer of all addictions, alcohol, drugs of every kind, except for heroin. I wasn't a heroin addict.
You're still using heroin? No.
No. Still using tobacco, but we'll talk about that later.
No, it's funny because you're like, I'm overcoming everything, and then except for heroin, it's like, oh, you're not overcoming? Are you still actively using heroin?
No,
just kidding, guys.
Never was one of my DOCs.
Yeah, I never, there was a time in my life, I was probably 15, and we were using what they called crank back then. And you said it was because they put it in the crankshaft when they were transporting it?
Crankcase of motorcycles.
There was a couple. Now, these people, I'll probably never see them again, ever. And they might not even be alive anymore. And they were probably in their 30s, but they looked to me as a 15-year-old, they looked like they were in their 60s. And they had heroin, and people that I was hanging out with one day had heroin. And I was asking somebody to get me shot up because I wanted to do it. And because I had never done it, no one would do it. Mm-hmm. Here's what you know what that means? That means inside even them, there was a conviction that was wrong. they even knew. They were never, they actually felt a level of guilt that they would be a participant in somebody's first use of heroin.
There was a tiny bit of protection there.
Yeah. But had I ever used, if in fact I could have told them, now the cat was already in the bag, I'd already told them I hadn't, but let's say I told them that I had used, they would totally have done it. But I'm telling you, there's this like God consciousness that everybody has. And, you know, they felt it. They were like, oh yeah, we don't shoot people up for the first time ever. Like, oh, okay. It was just interesting to, you know, think and reflect on that. But yes, there was a level of protection. They were listening to God for sure, because it was their own conscience. And of course they were listening to God. So a couple announcements real quick. I want to go through. I got ordained since the last podcast. So it's been almost 2 weeks. We didn't do a podcast last week. My daughter broke her arm, and I just, instead of trying to make things happen, I just was like, let's just skip the podcast for the week. And that's what you can do when you run a podcast. You can just not do one. And so I know there were some people out there. You guys are really looking forward to hearing from us, and you get to hear from us this week. So I got a gift. I'm going to see if I can pull this out here. There we go. Now this is a painting. You can see who the painting is. I'm just putting in a couple of angles because it's metallic. So here's what's cool, guys. Helen painted this, and this is not an original, right? So this is a proof or a print, but it is the only metallic print in existence. I'm just gonna put it down here.
That's rad.
Well, I know people on the show want to see it.
We want more.
There we go. All right. So that was a gift. It was an ordination gift from Helen, who's been on this journey, or part of my journey with Faith Foundry and True North Star Ministry since the beginning for me, which was about 7 years ago. So having Helen there and some other people, you guys were there, appreciate it. What this means for me is that the getting ordained is like the next, it's kind of it's a mantle and a launching point for me to really say, it's not I climbed the mountain, I've got it, and I've got it all together. What this is saying is that I've been on this journey and I've walked, and I'm at a place where I know that I don't go back, right? And this is a mantle that that I'm wearing, that I'm owning, that I'm receiving. And it's going to launch me into the next direction. Now, all of that is still up in the air for the Lord to do. But I know as I progress, I've started hearing, and I'm not, necessarily walking in this with this position, but I feel like I'm a recovery pastor. And what I mean by that is I've been reaching out, and I haven't been doing this because I want to be a recovery pastor. I'm just finding myself doing this. I'm reaching out to people online that I don't even know. And I'm asking them like questions about the direction they want to go, and they're kind of more pastoral questions as opposed to, accountability partner questions. So they're more like, hey, do you want freedom or do you just want to not drink? And I'm finding that's the role of a shepherd, right? Because a shepherd is somebody who wants to really be a part of someone's life, whereas an accountability partner might be, or even a sponsor, might have some kind of distance. I just mean, when I say distance, I mean they got their own life, right? They're working their own program, and there's a certain distance that people will go. So well, that was just kind of an announcement I want to throw out there, just so people can know. I got the double portion because I got a True North Star Ministries ordination, and I got a Faith Foundry Church ordination.
Come on.
So really excited about where the Lord's going to take me there. And then last kind of announcement, this doesn't necessarily have to do with this podcast or this channel, but I am pursuing personal endeavors to start a business. And so I bought godsaidlive.shop. So you guys can go
awesome.
To godsaidlive.shop. It's probably not going to work right now because I haven't set it all up, but I'm going to be selling shirts that have really positive and uplifting phrases and different things. I actually think that we can have viewers and other people that are participating help design some shirts, and then we'll all
ask me my name.
Yeah, there
on
you go.
On the back, it's Hepzibah.
Really, the idea is that all of the shirts are going to have some sort of really heavy phrase, very easy to see. It's not going to be one of those things where you got to read the fine print. Unless maybe you want to have a big word and then have some fine print, but they're supposed to be conversation starters. So you could say, I'm free, or sobriety question mark, or, God said live. And it kind of invites people to say, what's that shirt about? Tell me a little bit more.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know I've gone on, and thank you for checking out this clip from the Position Recovery Podcast. The entire podcast is available on our other channel. There's a link in the description box below, so you can go check it out. The full audio program is available on your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify, Pandora, and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Finally, if you'd like access to exclusive members-only content, or maybe you just want to support us in what we're doing financially, head on over to patreon.com/position, where there are a variety of giving levels and one that is perfect for your budget. It's always awesome hanging out with you guys. And remember, many are called, but you are positioned.